Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, the educators, and also the timekeeper. Thank you so much for having me today. First of all, I'm going to introduce myself first. My name is Aldebaran Raihan Revidy from Senior High School 1 Tasikmalaya, and I'm here as the Prime Minister from the government team will define to you some keywords, give parameter, and also I'm gonna give you my argument to strengthen my team. Well, ladies and gentlemen, our motion today for this debate competition is this House believe that scholarships should only be granted on the basis of financial necessity. Well, I'm here as the affirmative team will give you parameter so we are talking in the same page and focusing in one thing. Well, the parameter is education in Indonesia. Furthermore, there are three keywords that become the basis of the pro team's argument. Well, the first keyword is scholarships. A scholarship is an award of financial aid for a student to further their education at a private elementary or secondary school or a private or public post-secondary college, university, or other academic institution. And second keyword is underprivileged. Well, underprivileged is somebody that is not enjoying the same standard of living or rights as the majority of people in the society. Well, people who are financially incapable, of course, need more funding from the government to continue their education because most people who have economic defiances find it difficult to continue their education because of the money factor. Just imagine people who can afford to buy luxury goods sometimes still get scholarship for the poor, not from their achievement, which that scholarship is actually for the poor. Well, here we can confirm that there is a social inequality in Indonesia. Because of that, I'm here as the government team is strongly agree with this motion with four basic arguments. Well, first basic arguments is from the economic side, families who receive scholarships will certainly feel calm in their children's education matters, so they don't care about cost anymore. They can use their income for urgent and most needed things, so that with these scholarships, their burden is reduced by one. And the second is there are so many people in Indonesia who have good abilities and potential in the field of education, but cannot continue their education because of economic factors and financial factors. So, is the government willing to give up successor geniuses like Habibi just because they can continue their education because of economic factors and financial factors? So, I believe here that the scholarships should only be granted on the basis of financial necessity because, as I said before, we can lose smart people but less capable in terms of economy. And the second one is there are still many people in Indonesia who are not honest with their economic conditions. For example, there are lots of students who get poor scholarships even though their family income is far above the average. This shows inequality in the distribution of government subsidies. Of course, this is detrimental to people who are less well off economically. In fact, from the BBC News, in Jakarta, there are still many rich people or capable people that get a scholarship that is for poor people or underprivileged people. Can you imagine that? And the third one is some may ask, what are the criteria for the poor? Due to the unclear criteria for the category of poor, people who are classified as poor are often the subject of discussions. The requirements for granting scholarships are children whose parents are poor. It turns out that the scholarship goes to children whose parents can afford it, even parents who have cars. There was a teacher at school, in fact, in Jakarta, there was a teacher at school who made himself poor, asking for relief for his son in paying the bills even though he could afford it. It was proven that he bought a car at school. The criteria for being poor in educational are similar to the criteria for being poor in society. And last basic arguments that I want to tell you is from the mental health side. Many students are afraid, still afraid, that they will not be able to continue their education due to economic and financial factors. They become stressed, lose hope, think a lot about how they will continue their education every night, every day. But with such a program in Indonesia like KIP, the hopeless students get a glimmer of hope and lights, and they become motivated to keep learning and can make Indonesia proud with the abilities that they have. Well, I strongly agree with this motion because there are still many underprivileged people who are not lucky enough to continue their education. Who knows, we will give up smart people who can even become Habib's successors in the future. By providing scholarships to people who are financially underprivileged, of course, this will be a stepping stone for them to continue their education, and also by giving scholarships to the right people, it can have a positive impact for Indonesia too. They can contribute to the development of Indonesia, and they can make a history like from the competition in the world or international area. Don't we want Indonesia to progress, develop, and compete in the international world? Of course we want. So give scholarships to financially disadvantaged students, which can motivate them to reach and get their dream without having to think about the cost to continue their education, without overthinking it every night, without hopeless, without stress. By giving scholarship to the right people, we can build the education of the Indonesian state. Once again, from me, I strongly agree with this motion because together we can. Underprivileged student can compete with many people if financial matters have been resolved. Thank you so much for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.